The Soviet Union officially sent only 2 cosmonauts to their deaths. Western intelligence agencies insisted they were lying. During the height of the Cold War, a peculiar rumor circulated through intelligence networks and amateur radio communities across Europe. Cosmonauts, Soviet space explorers, were dying in orbit, re-entering Earth's atmosphere and burning up. Yet Moscow's official records showed no such losses. The discrepancy was stark, unsettling, and it raised a question that would haunt space historians for decades. What was the Soviet Union hiding? The theory gained serious traction in the early 1960s, particularly after Italian radio enthusiast Jodrell Bank and others claimed to have intercepted distress signals from dying cosmonauts. These weren't fantasies. Credible observers reported hearing voices, faint, desperate, calling out in Russian from space. Some accounts described cosmonauts screaming as their spacecraft tumbled back toward Earth. By the mid-1960s, Western intelligence agencies took the reports seriously enough to investigate. The CIA and British intelligence compiled dossiers on suspected Soviet space accidents. Names began to circulate, cosmonauts who supposedly died but were never acknowledged by Moscow. The implications were profound, a space program so competitive, so desperate to win the race to the moon, that it would sacrifice lives and then erase them from history. One of the most persistent names in these theories was Vladimir Komarov. In 1967, the Soyuz 1 spacecraft experienced catastrophic failures during re-entry. Komarov died, that much Moscow admitted, but the Western intelligence community believed there had been earlier, unacknowledged deaths. The question became, how many others had there been? The most famous alleged victim was Yuri Gagarin, though his death came not in space, but in a 1968 fighter jet crash. Yet some theorists argued that Gagarin had made an earlier secret spaceflight that ended in disaster. Others claimed he was part of a cover-up. The mythology surrounding these lost cosmonauts grew so dense that separating fact from Cold War speculation became nearly impossible. The core appeal of the lost cosmonauts theory was its internal logic. The Soviet Union was secretive by nature. Their space program operated in shadows. If disasters happened, and they certainly did, why would Moscow publicize them? Admitting failure would have handed propaganda victories to the Americans. Silence was strategic. But here's where the theory begins to fracture. Modern scholarship, particularly after the Cold War ended and Soviet archives opened, has systematically debunked most of these claims. The intercepted radio signals, never properly verified. The mysterious cosmonauts, many were fictional, or their stories were wildly distorted by rumor and mistranslation. Researchers like Asif Siddiqi, who spent years analyzing Soviet space records, found little evidence of secret cosmonauts dying unacknowledged. The Soviet Union certainly lost cosmonauts, Vladimir Komarov, Georgy Dobrovolsky, Vladislav Volkov, and others. But these deaths were eventually disclosed, even if with significant delays or minimal detail. The intercepted radio signals proved far more elusive when scrutinized. Some were likely misidentified military transmissions. Others were hoaxes perpetrated by amateur enthusiasts seeking attention. The famous death screams recordings, most experts now believe they were either fabrications or misinterpreted data from automated systems. Yet the theory persisted for a reason beyond mere Cold War paranoia. The Soviet space program was genuinely shrouded in secrecy. Cosmonauts who failed training or whose missions were scrubbed weren't publicized. Accidents during ground testing were buried. The opacity was real, which made it fertile ground for speculation and conspiracy. What makes the lost cosmonauts theory historically valuable isn't its accuracy, it's what it reveals about Cold War psychology. Both superpowers engaged in information warfare. Americans didn't trust Soviet announcements. The Soviets reciprocated. Rumors filled the vacuum. Technology that could connect us across oceans also amplified uncertainty. The theory also highlights a genuine truth. The space race was deadly. Both Soviet and American programs suffered losses. Cosmonauts and astronauts died in training, in spacecraft, in test flights. These were real risks undertaken by real people. The Soviets were perhaps less transparent about their casualties, but the casualties themselves were undeniable. Modern declassification has been illuminating. We now know far more about Soviet space setbacks than Cold War observers could have. The N-1 rocket program, their moon rocket, failed repeatedly. Unmanned probes crashed. Spacecraft malfunctioned. But these weren't hidden forever. Records eventually surfaced, some through official disclosure, others through leaked documents and historical research. The Lost Cosmonauts theory teaches us something crucial about information and belief. In the absence of transparency, humans construct narratives. We fill gaps with plausible stories. During the Cold War, when the Soviet Union said nothing about space disasters, Western observers invented explanations. The invented stories became more famous than the eventual truth. Some lost cosmonauts may have existed, individuals whose missions were cancelled, whose training ended in tragedy, whose names were never released. Soviet bureaucracy was Byzantine enough that such erasures were possible. But the grand narrative of dozens of dead cosmonauts hidden from the world, that doesn't withstand scrutiny. What remains is a fascinating historical lesson. The Lost Cosmonauts theory shows how mythology emerges from genuine uncertainty. It reminds us that even credible observers, intelligence agencies, astronomers, researchers, can construct false narratives when operating from incomplete information. The story we tell matters as much as the truth we seek. Today, space exploration is far more transparent. Missions are documented in real time. Failures are acknowledged quickly. The opacity that once surrounded Soviet cosmonautics has largely dissolved. Yet the legend of the lost cosmonauts endures, a haunting reminder of an era when the final frontier was contested not just by rockets, but by shadows and silence. Subscribe to uncover more hidden chapters of space history, where declassified documents reveal what Cold War secrecy once concealed.